They told him she was not his kind. They told her he was not her people. They were both right. And none of it mattered. Because the heart has never once asked for permission. There was a river that cut through two worlds. On one side lived the Anoma people, farmers. Strong hands, red earth, people who rose before the sun and trusted the soil with everything they had. On the other side lived the Soro people, fishermen. Quiet eyes, dark water, people who read the river the way others read the sky. The two villages had shared that river for 200 years. And for 200 years, they had shared nothing else. No marriages. No celebrations together. No children playing across the bank. There was no war between them, just a war made of old stories and older pride. Each side believed the other lived wrong. Worked wrong. Prayed wrong. Loved wrong. The river ran between them like a scar that both sides had agreed never to touch. And then Kofi fell out of a canoe. He was 19. An Anoma farmer's son, broad shoulders, calloused hands, a laugh that arrived before he did. He had crossed to the Soro side chasing a goat that had absolutely no respect for boundaries. He found the goat. He lost his footing. And he went into the river. Now Kofi was many things, hardworking, loyal, funny in the way that makes you groan before you smile. But a swimmer he was not. He went down once. He went down twice. On the third time, a hand grabbed his wrist and pulled. He came up gasping, river water pouring from his nose, dignity completely gone. He was on the Soro bank. Kneeling in the mud. Coughing like an old man. When he finally looked up, there was a girl standing over him. She was wringing river water from her own wrapper cloth, looking at him with an expression somewhere between concern and absolute disbelief. "You crossed the river," she said, "for a goat." Kofi wiped his face. "He is a very important goat." She stared at him. Then she laughed, sudden and real and so unexpected that Kofi forgot entirely that he had almost drowned. Her name was Afia. She was a Soro fisherman's daughter. Slim and quick, with eyes that had been watching rivers long enough to read them. She was serious when she needed to be and sharp when she wanted to be. And she had absolutely no idea why she was still standing there talking to a soaking wet Anoma boy and his terrible goat. She helped him find the goat. He thanked her 3 times. She told him once was enough. He came back the next day. Not with an excuse. Just there. Standing at the edge of the river on his side, waving across the water like a person with no shame at all. She pretended she didn't see him. She absolutely saw him. The third day, she walked to her side of the bank. "You should not be here," she said across the water. "I know," he said. "My father will not like it." "I know." "Your people will talk." "I know." A long pause. "So why do you keep coming?" Kofi was quiet for a moment. Then honestly, simply, with the kind of words that only people who mean them can find. "Because when you laughed, it felt like something I had been looking for without knowing I was looking." Afia looked at the river between them for a long time. Then she sat down on her bank. He sat down on his. And they talked across the water until the sun went down. It went on like that for weeks. 2 people. 2 banks. 1 river between them. They talked about everything. His mother's groundnut soup. Her father's fishing songs. The stars they both watched from different sides. The things they wanted that their villages had never thought to offer them. He made her laugh. She made him think. He was loud where she was quiet. She was steady where he was scattered. Together, across that strip of moving water, they made a kind of sense that neither of them made alone. And slowly, the way the dry season comes, not all at once but undeniably, they fell in love. They did not plan it. They did not want the trouble it brought. But one evening, when the river ran gold with the last of the sunset, Kofi waded into his knees. "Afia." She looked at him from her bank. "I am not going to pretend anymore," he said. "I love you. And I know what that means. I know what they will say. I know what it will cost. But I need you to know I would rather fight for something real than spend my whole life comfortable and empty. Afia stood at the water's edge for a long time. The river moved between them, patient and old and unbothered by the decisions of two young people. Then she stepped in. The water rose to her ankles, her knees, her waist. She crossed. She stood before him soaking, serious, the kind of brave that doesn't look like bravery from the inside but looks like everything from the outside. I know what it will cost too, she said quietly. I am here anyway. He took her hand. And the river, that old silent scar, flowed right past them without stopping. What followed was not easy. Her father's silence that lasted 3 weeks. His mother's tears that lasted longer. Elders on both sides who sat together for the first time in memory, not to celebrate, but to argue about whether this was allowed. But here is what happened that nobody planned. When the elders of Anoma and Soro sat together in the same room for the first time in 200 years, they discovered something uncomfortable. They liked each other. Not immediately. Not warmly. But they spoke the same way about harvest and weather. They worried about the same river. They told stories about their grandparents and discovered with great irritation that their grandparents had probably been friends. The wall between them had been built on old stories. And old stories, it turned out, could be replaced by new ones. Kofi and Afia married at the river's edge. Not on one bank. Not on the other. On a small sandbar that belonged to neither side and therefore belonged to both. Her father came. He cried, though he said it was river water in his eyes. His mother came. She brought groundnut soup for everyone, which on her side was the highest declaration of love. The children of both villages played in the shallows that day, feet on each other's soil, too young to know they were supposed to stay apart. And the river, that old scar between two people, ran through the celebration like it had always been a part of it. Because it had. The river had never been the problem. The river had simply been waiting for someone brave enough to cross it. They said love knows no boundary. And Kofi and Afia proved it, not with grand words but with small brave steps toward each other, every single day. Tell me in the comments, have you ever loved someone everyone told you was wrong for you? Subscribe and stay close. The next story is already waiting.